Crafty Meraki has released a beautiful floral stamp today, and I'm showing you how I've created two stunning watercolour cards with just one stamp set. I'm Verity and welcome to my YouTube channel, Pretty Little Button. Today I'm using the Believe in Miracles stamp set. This has a beautiful massive floral image that has been designed by Emily Midget, and it's beautifully created. I'm going to watercolour this in, and I have a piece of watercolour cardstock. This is cold press, you can use hot or cold depending on what you like. And then I've just positioned the packaging over the top to determine where I want to place it. Now I am going to create two cards from this, so I have got a large piece of cardstock. It's about 7 inches by 5.5 inches tall. And I'm going to heat emboss this because heat embossing is a great way to colour your images in if you're not necessarily the neatest person when it comes to watercolouring. And with myself, I'm still learning, I still practice a lot, and if I find it's quite an intricate design like this one, which is beautiful, heat embossing is a fantastic way to ensure you get great colouring. So I've stamped that in some clear embossing ink, and I'm covering it in some superfine embossing powder. This is in gold. I'm using superfine because this has got so much detail in it. You really want to maintain that detail, and a superfine embossing powder works perfectly for this. And as you can see, look how beautiful that stamp has stamped. So I'm just funneling my embossing powder back into the container before I heat set it. And I want to make sure my heat gun is nice and hot before I bring it to my card panel, and then just look at the embossing powder change and that floral come to life. Obviously I'm using a watercolour cardstock because we are going to be watercolouring this in, but if you prefer to use other mediums such as colouring pencils or alcohol markers, then that's all up to you. Just make sure you're using the right kind of media for that. Now I like to twist and move the card in the light just so I can see has all the powder melted, because you really want to get that beautiful finish with the embossing powder. And as you can see, this has stamped beautifully and it looks gorgeous. To colour this in, I'm using some watercolour paints. I'm using the Altenew artist grade set, but you can use any watercolour pans that you have in your stash. I decided that I wanted to create a variegation in the colours on the petals, so the petal wasn't going to be all of one colour. And I've seen some people do this with some yellows and pinks, and they get this beautiful blend into some corals. Also, when I was colouring this, it just reminded me sort of the colours that you get of a nectarine. So I'm colouring in the petal with a bit of clear water. I'm then going in with some yellow, and I'm putting more of a darker concentration towards the base of the petal, and then I'm pulling that colour out with some clear water. Then I drop in some pink towards the base of the petal, and I make sure that this is still whilst the petal is wet because I want the colours to blend and mix. If I wait until that petal is dry before I add the pink, I won't get a smooth blend. And it all depends what you look for when you come to paint. You can go for that more contrast look and allow the colours to dry in between before you add the layers, but I wanted that smooth blend. I keep doing this on all of the petals. Now, with heat embossing, you don't have to worry as much about painting the petal next to it because you have got that heat embossing that will help prevent any of the colour bleeding. If you were to do this as a no-line watercolouring look, then yes, you need to make sure you move and paint a petal that is further away, that is not touching that petal that you've currently done. Out of habit, I just happen to go and do that and continue doing that whilst I paint this floral. But if you don't worry, the heat embossing there acts as a barrier and prevents the colours from bleeding. What I'm going to do is I am going to speed up the process and put some music on so you can watch me paint. However, you're more than welcome to skip ahead where you see how I turn this one image into two cards later on. If you want to actually see this in more of a real-time setting, you can slow down the video on YouTube. Just go into the settings and the video playback speed and really reduce that down, and you can see me colouring in at a much slower pace. To see me turn these into some cards, you can skip to the about 11.5 minute marker and you'll see the rest of the process. So once that was all coloured in, I have a really gorgeous floral. Now you might not feel confident in necessarily doing the next step, but it's all about getting more from your crafting time, and this is a great way with such a large floral stamp like this. Yes, you can use it on a large big card, but you can also use it to make 2 smaller cards. So what I'm doing is I am cutting this down in half. Now I know my panel is 5.5 tall. I'm roughly looking at where I think it's going to look good, making sure that I'm not getting too much on one side and too much on the other side, but don't worry, it works really, really well. So I have cut these in half and I'm then trimming them down, and as you can see I have 2 cards. Because of the colours that I use in the floral, I thought a pink card base would work beautifully with these and it would really bring out that vibrancy of the floral. So I trimmed them down and I foam mounted them onto 2 A2 card bases out of a pink cardstock. This is from Hero Hughes, I think it's the Azalea cardstock. And I'm just foam mounting it up because we have used some water, there is a little bit of warping, but remember we've used a watercolour cardstock which really holds up quite well with water, it won't warp as much. But we did do a little bit of heat embossing as well, so there is a tiny bit of warping from the heat embossing. For the sentiments, I heat emboss 2 sentiments from the stamp set. So these read, magic happens when you believe, and then believe in yourself. Now I fussy cut the believe out. I really don't mind fussy cutting. I quite find it therapeutic at times, and it's quite a small little word that was really easy to do. I did this on black with some white heat embossing because I really wanted a bit of contrast, and that black really pops off the card. I foam mounted them on and just clustered them over the florals, and then to finish these cards off I added some gold sequins, 2 different sizes, and I just scattered them around the card using my tweezers and some glue to adhere them down. I hope you've enjoyed today's video and it's shown you a really easy way to get variation in your watercolour, how you can use such a lovely large floral stamp set such as this one, Believe in Miracles, which has been illustrated beautifully by Emily Midget and has been released today. I hope you enjoyed today's video and let me know in the comments below, do you like to make 2-for-1 cards? If you're new to my channel, why not think about subscribing and hitting that bell icon to be notified when my next video is up. Until next time, happy crafting!